Hello, everybody, and welcome to Industrial Psychology tutorial number 6. How are you all doing today? Could we just tune into those of you who are here, and you can just tell us your name and how you're doing. I see Salt River. You've joined us today. Welcome. Can you unmute yourselves?
Hello.
Hello, how are you both doing today?
Sorry?
How are you both doing today?
Very good. Welcome, guys.
You're good, okay. Having a nice long weekend.
Yes, it was nice.
That's good. We all need a break every now and then. So, I don't know, is there someone else that's joined us? I don't know if they have their microphone muted. Anyways, welcome everyone who is watching this. You know, for the past few weeks, we've been looking at social behavior, how people's attitudes, values, perceptions, and behavior influence their relationships with other people. So today we're going to be looking a little bit more at what the lessons were on in the last few weeks, which was aggression and violence and bullying in the workplace. And then we're going to also look at group work and group processes. Can you just indicate if you either through the comments, or you can just let me know if you had time to go through the last 2 lessons that were put up onto Funda? Maybe a thumbs up if you've been able to read through them yet. Ah, we see 1. Thank you, 1 person. 2 people. Well, it's good to know that at least somebody is reading through the lessons that I prepare and put up. But yeah, it is very important. I think if you can go through them each week, at least then you're not going to be falling behind for when the exam comes. It would just help you to get a better understanding every week. And then with the tutorials, this is basically going through each lesson, and if you have any questions, I am here to answer them. Okay, so it's not really for me to have a lecture now. It's more to make sure that we are all on the same track. So please keep the questions coming to me, whether you unmute yourself and speak, or you just use the chat and write your comments or your questions. Right. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to show you a small video clip. And then afterwards we're going to discuss what kind of behavior is being shown in the clip. Right.
Ken, can we file this? And I need the Johnson file right away. Come on, come on, come on. I got my meeting. You knew about this morning. What have you been doing all day? Do you not understand English? You can be replaced. I hope you realize that. Okay, Ted, get on my way. Yeah, I know, but I've got a meeting to go to. You can do whatever after. I've got a meeting to go to. I need a quarter. Here, give me your quarter. That was my only quarter. Well, you know what? Oh, poor mommy's baby. You can get one later. I got important things to do.
Were you all able to hear that video? What kind of aggression do you think was being displayed there by the boss towards her employees? Was it workplace aggression, violence, bullying, what type of behavior? Ah, okay. So Salt River said they couldn't actually hear anything. Oh, yeah, I'm not too sure on how to fix that. So let me just explain it to you. This, sorry, I'm just checking the microphone. This boss was called to a meeting. So she ran off to her secretary and she started swearing and shouting at the secretary for not being able to get the work done on time. She called her name. She threatened to fire the secretary. And then when she went to photocopy some notes, she made fun of that man. She said that he was silly, that he was a mommy's boy. You know, she was just trying to belittle him. So what kind of behavior would you consider that? Do you think it was violent behavior, aggressive behavior, bullying behavior? Okay, from Erka from Boksburg says bullying, absolutely. And I would agree with you that it was bullying. She was, Salt River also say bullying, very aggressive with a sense of bullying, absolutely. She was belittling and making fun and mocking her employees. What do you think some of the consequences are for the victim? How do you think the victim, the secretary and the man at the photocopying machine, how do you think they felt being spoken to like that, treated in that manner? So, okay, saying that those employees will probably feel unimportant, they feel useless. Any other feelings do you think would go with that? They may feel humiliated as well, and definitely not want to maybe have a decrease in their motivation to actually work, maybe even feel less committed to their job if they know that this is how they're being treated by their boss. Salt River, you say they feel sad, humiliated, and depressed, and those are big consequences of bullying. They may feel like they are ill-treated, you say as well. And these are very negative feelings to have, and employees that feel sad, who feel humiliated, who feel unimportant, like I mentioned, they're going to have a decrease in motivation. You're not going to want to give as much of yourself to an organization if this is how you've been made to feel on a daily basis. Like I said, you're going to be less committed. You may be looking elsewhere. It can lead to some very negative feelings about your place of work. So it's very important then that organizations do something about this, that they have procedures in place. What do you think organizations, or what do you think this organization could have done or should do to prevent further bullying from this boss? What do you think some of the steps that they could take to help the situation? Okay, so you say that they should maybe apologize. So who must apologize? The head of the organization, the boss who is bullying, who should be the one, or the victim, who should, okay, the boss, you're saying. What else can they do? Salt River, you're saying that they should have, organizations should have strict policies against bullying in the workplace, and that these should be established and that disciplinary hearings as well. The business should encourage their workers to tell their superiors about it. So you're suggesting that there needs to be a direct flow of communication, that employees, even at the lower levels, should feel comfortable going up and speaking against managers or supervisors who are ill-treating them. Okay, I'm just going to put on a quick PowerPoint of some other ideas as well. These are other things organizations can do. They can have policies and procedures on acceptable conduct which are clearly documented and given to all employees. So this means that every employee, when they start working, they should be able to have the policies and the procedures, what to do when you do have a complaint, what is the procedure to follow. Ensure employees are disciplined in an ethical manner according to the labor laws. So this will also help with employees who may be prone to violence or aggressive behavior, you know, to make sure that when they are being disciplined, it's done in an ethical manner, where it's done in privacy, not in front of a group of people, you know, just to also ensure that they aren't, you know, you're not giving way to further aggression or violent acts. Reprimand employees as professionally as possible. So in a case like this, maybe it would be best if there is a complaint made against that lady, the boss, that it's done in a very formal setting, it's done in privacy, where she can also have her say as well, and it can be discussed. And then as well, checking the practices and culture to see which ones induce violent behavior. So what is also causing the behavior, what are the red flags and such. Those of you who read or have watched the lesson for the aggression, I also wrote, I think in the presentation, many other ways that organizations can handle these types of issues. For example, training as well. And that's something that we as industrial psychologists could get quite involved in, or if you're working in HR, where you're training organizations on how to deal with these types of issues when you're speaking with employees around anger management, and as well as the procedures and the appropriate ways of dealing with these issues. You know, and I think when you are working in organizations, you'll very often have to deal with these types of issues, whether it's aggression, whether it's violence, whether it's bullying, you know, and conflict is always going to come up. And that is one of the reasons why this chapter is so important, to understand the difference in aggression and in conflict, and most importantly, how do we deal with it in a way that ensures that this behavior does not continue. Are there any questions regarding aggression and conflict in the workplace? I know I've gone through it very briefly now, mostly because I think it is all in the lesson on Funde. But if there are any questions regarding it, please send them through now. Okay, no questions. Then we're going to move on. How many of you have been able to watch or have been able to read through the first part of the group processes? It was put on, I think, on Thursday or Friday. Okay. All right, I see there is a question regarding aggression, so let's just move back there. How would you approach your boss if there is no one above them? So maybe one of the other students in Salt River could I pick on one of you? What would you suggest if the person who is bullying you or is intimidating you is the person that you should be complaining to? And what do you do in a case like that? Now, this is a very interesting question, actually, and I think it's such a relevant one as well to ask, because in some incidences this happens, particularly maybe in smaller organizations where there is not, you know, as many steps or employees that or managers, and you've got a smaller team, and if the leader or the manager is the bully, what do you do? And I'm sure that this happens quite often. According to Salt River, they're saying that you could actually take them to the labor court. But you know, this is an interesting one, and I think it's one that's worth debating as well. And perhaps what we should do is start a bit of a discussion on Fundo around this. What can you do in an instance like that? So maybe instead of me just answering it and going and looking at it, perhaps we can start a discussion forum on Fundo, where I would really like to hear other people's opinions as well, and perhaps those who are going to be listening to this tutorial at a later stage could also have input and suggestions on what you can do in a case like that. So is it all right then if we put that onto Fundo for all the students to participate in that discussion? I will put one up tonight. Okay. I think it would be quite an interesting one as well. Quite an interesting debate to have. So let's then move on to groups. Can I just see how many of you have been able to read or look through Fundo from last week's lesson? Those of you who okay. Why do you think we need to study groups? What is the relevance to us? What do you think the importance is? Why would we have this as a chapter or as a unit? What can we get from understanding group processes and group behavior, do you think? Sal Driver, I see you wanting to know what my suggestion is, and I will give you my suggestion on Fundo, but first I want to hear what the other students say as well. So we're going to discuss that one. Okay, they've asked me to repeat the question. So we've moved on now. We're looking at groups, which was for this last week's and this week's focus. So what I want to know is, why do you think we should be looking at groups? What would be the purpose of studying group processes, group behavior, group development, group structure? What can we get from it? What is the necessity or the relevance for studying groups in work groups and organizations? So, River, you're saying that groups determine how effective people work together. Okay. And I think in organizations, organizations consist of many different groups. You get groups that are put together to perform a particular task, or they on a particular project or program that they need to implement. And you get other groups of colleagues that they may go out for coffee together, and they're more informal due to friendship rather than a particular program or task. And I think the organization as a whole even could be considered a group. You're working towards a particular objectives or goals. And groups provide support, they provide a sense of belonging, a sense of identification, but they can also provide a number of stresses and frustrations to the members. So I think in order for us to fully understand how a particular organization functions or operates, if we're wanting to understand the social issues and the culture of the organization, we also then cannot ignore the group. And we need to have some knowledge on group behavior. So last week, in last week's lesson, I hope you've all been able to look at the different types of groups. And I identified or distinguished between formal groups and informal groups. Can anyone give me an example of a formal work group? Let me write it as well. What do you think a formal work group would consist out of? Or an example of one would be? Okay, here's one example. You're saying a group of board members. So that would be considered a formal group because it's a group organized by the organization or by management to accomplish a particular goal. What would be an example of an informal work group? Charles River, you're saying a support group. Okay. So an informal work group is formed by individuals and they are developed around a common interest or a friendship. So it depends, maybe if it's a support group that's quite an informal one that the employees have kind of just developed amongst themselves due to a particular interest or because of friendship. Right, so you get those informal and formal groups, and you can see examples as well as definitions of both on Funda as well as in your textbook. Then we went on to look at group development, and two of your peers, I think it was Joshua and Alicia, gave great examples for each stage of group development. You know, if you watch that video clip I put on, and then they evaluated the various stages and how that group developed from beginning to the end. So what I would like you all to do though is to think of a group that you have belonged in before, whether it is a work group or a committee that you were involved in at school or a sports group, any form of group that you have that you have been a part of, a member of. And I want you to just think back to that experience and to see if you can identify the 5 stages of group development that was discussed in the lessons. Okay, and then what you can do once you've thought of those is that I have put that little comment section on Funde. And I would encourage you all just to give some examples of your experience as a group, if you can identify the 5 stages or not. And if so, you can just give examples of your experience. But why do you think it is important for us to understand how groups develop? What would be the reasoning in needing to understand how groups form in an organization? What's the purpose of the name? Okay, so you're saying it's also, one of the purposes is to know how to start a new group. Okay. What other reasons could there be for studying group development? So like you say, it could be to know how to start a new group. It can be so that we know how to manage group processes. We can anticipate possible groups that may form in an organization. And as well, if we understand how groups develop, we can hopefully create cooperation as well as a positive attitude amongst the members of the group. So what we're going to be doing for this week's lesson is that we're going to in order to understand groups better, we're going to be looking at the group structure. So we're looking at the leadership of a group. What type of leaders you get, what makes an effective leader, and that. We're going to look at the various roles in a group, various roles that group members can take on, the composition of a group, the size of a group, how that may influence group behavior. We're also going to look at group processes and as well as group decision making. So how can we get groups to be effective in their decision making? We're going to be looking at various processes and techniques around that. So that's something that you have to look forward to for this week, when we are looking more into the group process and how we can use groups effectively in organizations. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. So today I really just wanted to go through those 2 units, to look at some of the social behaviors and what we are focusing on in this period. We've looked at bullying, a bit about the groups, and next tutorial we'll look a little bit more in depth once you've had a chance to go onto Funde. I know once I've uploaded this lesson, then we can maybe have even a better discussion and a more in-depth discussion as well. Okay, I see there's one question here. Do students taking psychology do industrial psychology? Do you mean that do students who are studying psychology, do they have to study industrial psychology? As far as I know, you do not have to do this course if you want to do psychology. But that's maybe something you can just check out with Wayne Herman or one of the admin staff at the college. As far as I know, it's not a prerequisite. Do students taking psychology do industrial psychology with Cornerstone? I think a lot of students who are studying psychology are doing industrial psychology, but I don't think that you have to do industrial psychology as far as I know. but maybe that's something that you can just check with the college, or if you like, I can check and I can get back to you on that. All right. Are there any other questions? This really is your time to give me your comments, your feedback. You know, I find sometimes it's really hard. I'm used to doing lectures face to face, so coming here and all I get to see is myself on the video, and you know, we don't really get to have many debates or discussions, which is always such a nice thing to do, to make sure that we're all on the same page and to understand a topic and get more clarity on things. But the tutorials are really meant to be your time for us to be able to do that. So if there is any topic or field of interest or any concerns that you have, you know, if you can either give me the comments on the tutorials, otherwise you can email me and then I know what to include in the next tutorials. Because I do want these times or these tutorials to be beneficial for you. You know, I don't want you to think, oh, you're just wasting your time being part of this. So I would appreciate feedback. You can let me know what works for you, what doesn't work, what kind of, you know, this is your tutorial, so you can tell me how to present them. Okay. Other than that, I did receive most of your assignments. Thank you. The ones that I have already read on, some of them were really insightful, very great. So I'm looking forward to reading all of them, and I will give you those marks back as soon as I am done, and it hopefully won't be too long. Give me a week or so. Okay, I see, Salt River, you say you have a question.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to know something about our tests, actually.
Sorry?
It's about the tests. The tests in general. I just want to ask something.
It's around. Sorry, it's very unclear, the mic. What did you say?
I want to ask a question about our tests and exams.
Okay.
When we did our first test, I was a bit unsure about how I was going to be asked. So I would just like to know whether we could maybe do small tests or something like that, because I don't know how the psychology questions are going to be asked in the test.
Sorry, okay, let me just see if I understand you. You're saying that you're a bit concerned for the upcoming exam because you don't really know what questions are going to be asked, and you would like maybe if I set a smaller test beforehand so you can see the types of questions that I'm going to be asking. Is that right?
Yes, but I don't want people to see it as me just giving in work. I just want to know how you would ask questions in the test, because I was very unsure about how you would ask the test in the previous one.
Okay.
And I don't think I did as well because I misunderstood how we were going to do it.
Sorry, you faded out there. Maybe you can just type it in as well. So you're basically just saying that you would like me to perhaps go through some of the questions that I will ask, the style that I'm going to ask. Oh, now we've lost Salt River. What I can do is in the next tutorial, perhaps we can go through the various chapters as well that we have done so far, the things that you do need to focus on, and then I can give you some examples of questions that may come up. Because in the final exam, there's going to be the multiple choice again. There is also going to be the a few longer questions where you'll have to type, and then there may be one essay or so. But as soon as that's finalized, then, well, maybe next tutorial, that's what we can go through as well, just to prepare you. Okay, I get another question. I'm not sure what chapters we need to read. Okay. If you go to the module outline, which has been on Fundo since the beginning of this program, it will show you the different units. And all of those units are taken from the textbook. Okay. So if you have this textbook, every chapter that, or every topic that we have been speaking about has been taken out of this book. So, for example, the group behavior is taken from chapter 11. What I will do is what I can do is just put it on Funde as well, onto the industrial psychology sites. Perhaps the home page, I will just break down the chapters of the textbook for you, so that you can see which ones you need to read up on. All right, because it's not every chapter, but in each unit, you'll see there's a little sub-page, and if you click on it, it says reading. And in there, I think in all of the units, I've written either the chapter or the chapter and the page numbers that you need to read, and then the other journal articles if I've added any. So if you go to every single unit and you click in reading, the chapter will be there. Okay. So please check up on that. But if you are unsure, just send me an email. I do try to respond to emails as fast as I can. But please, I'm really happy to receive emails from you, because then I also know what to prepare for the lectures as well as for the tutorials. Does that answer your question? Okay. If there are, okay, great, thanks. If there are no other questions, then we can end off. I'm going to wish you all a happy short week. It's always nice. It's going to be hard to go back to a full week. So enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah, I hope you have a good week, and I will see you then in 2 weeks' time. Okay, bye.